Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's live discussion from Bhagavad Gita as it is. We are on chapter 17, the divisions of faith. And we have covered up to verses 21, and we will be beginning from verse 22, and hopefully we will conclude this chapter today. Verse 22. Adeshakale yaddanam patrebhyascha diyate asatkritam avajanatam tattamasam udaritam. And charity performed at an impure place at an improper time to unworthy persons or without proper attention and respect is said to be in the mode of ignorance. I think we did cover up to it yesterday, so sorry. We'll begin from verse 23. Om tat saditi nirdesho brahmanastri vidha smritaha brahmanastin vedascha yagyascha veta pura. From the beginning of creation, the three words Om Tat Sat were used to indicate the supreme absolute truth. These three symbolic representations were used by Brahmanas while chanting the hymns of the Vedas and during sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme. Verse 24. Tasmad Om Ityaudaharitya Yajnadana Tapa Kriya Pravartante Vidhanokta Sadatam Brahma Vadinam. Therefore, transcendentalists undertaking performances of sacrifice, charity, and penance in accordance with scriptural regulations begin always with Om to attain the Supreme. Verse 25. Tad iti anabhisandhaya phalam yajna tapa kriya dana kriyascha vividha kriyante moksha kankshibhi. Without desiring fruitive results, one should perform various kinds of sacrifice, penance, and charity with the word Tat. The purpose of such transcendental activities is to get free from the material entanglement. Verses 26 and 27, they are given together. Sadbhave sadhubhave cha sadityetat prayujyate prashaste karmani tatha satchabda partha yujyate. This is verse 26. Now 27. Yagye tapasi dane cha sthiti saditi chochyate karma chaiva tadarthiyam sadityeva bhidhiyate. Translation. The absolute truth is the objective of devotional sacrifice, and it is indicated by the word Sat. The performer of such sacrifice is also called Sat, as are all works of sacrifice, penance, and charity, which, true to the absolute nature, are performed to please the Supreme Person, or Son of Pritha. Now the last shloka for this chapter, chapter 17, is Ashraddhaya hutam dattam tapas taptam kritam chayat asiddhityuchyate partha na cha tat pretya no iha. Anything done as sacrifice, charity, or penance without faith in the Supreme, O son of Pritha, is impermanent. It is called asat and is useless both in this life and the next. Now, in these last verses, Bhagavan is going to tell about making sacrifices transcendental, or purifying the sacrifices by uttering Om Tat Sat. So you can bring your sacrifices up to the level of transcendental position by saying the word, by saying these words Om Tat Sat. In verse 23, Bhagavan is saying to Arjun that from the beginning of the creation, the three words Om Tat Sat were used to indicate the supreme absolute truth. These three symbolic representations were used by Brahmanas while chanting the hymns of the Vedas and during sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme. So earlier on in the chapter it has been explained that penance, sacrifice, charity and foods are divided into three categories. Penance is, as we know, atonement. If we do something wrong and we do something to rectify that, that is penance or atonement. And they are all divided into three categories: the mode of goodness, passion and ignorance. Now, whether they are in the mode of goodness, passion or ignorance, they are still classed as conditioned or contaminated, because they have been contaminated by the materials mode of nature. Now, when we aim our penance, sacrifice, charity or food toward the Supreme by saying Om Tat Sat, the Lord who is eternal, then all these become spiritually elevated. They rise spiritually. So these words, Om Tat Sat, these three words are indicative of the Supreme Lord or the absolute truth. Now we know that in all the Vedic hymns we always see that Om word is always used, is always there. We shouldn't say used, it is always there, it is always found. The one who is acting without the regulations of the scriptures or the shastras will not attain the absolute truth. They will only get the temporary result, but they won't get the ultimate end of life, which is to go back to the Godhead. Now that concludes that for the performance of any kind of charity, dana, sacrifice, yajna, penance, or some kind of prayashchit. Penance, prayashchit is the word for penance, and it all must be done in the mode of goodness. Performance in the mode of passion or ignorance, of course they are not in the same quality as the mode of goodness, but the three words Om Tat Sat, when they are uttered in conjunction with the Lord, with the Supreme God, that is Om Tad Vishnu. So whenever a Vedic hymn of the Lord is uttered or the holy name of the Lord is uttered, Om is always added. We all know that. Now these three words are taken from the Vedic hymns. Om Itya Etad Brahmano Nidishtham Nama. This is from Rigved. This indicates the first goal. Then Tat Tvam Asi. This is taken from the Chandogya Upanishad 6.8.7. This indicates the second goal. And finally, Sad Eva Saumya is also taken from Chandogya Upanishad 6.2.1. This indicates the third goal. Combine, they become Om Tat Sat. Formerly, when Brahma was performing all the sacrifices, all the yajnas, he indicated these words, and that principle which Brahma he started has been always followed by the disciplic successions. And so this hymn is very, very important, has got a great significance. Om Tat Sat is so important to all of us. Bhagavad Gita recommends that therefore any work should be done for Om Tat Sat. So anything we are doing, whether it's some kind of prayashchit, penance, dana, that is charity, sacrifice, that is some kind of yajna we are doing, or so these three words have to be said, and then a person is acting in Krishna consciousness, then a person is in Krishna Bhavanamrita, he or she is acting in the Krishna consciousness then only. So we have seen that Krishna consciousness is a scientific way of doing the transcendental activities or the spiritual activities which will enable one to return back to Godhead, which is our eternal home, and no loss of energy is there in acting in such way. So Prabhupada has explained this purport like all other purports so succinctly, so nicely, so precisely to us. So this is the importance of Om Tat Sat. Verse 24, Bhagavan is saying to Arjun, so therefore transcendentalists undertaking performances of sacrifice, charity and penance in accordance with scriptural regulations begin always with Om to attain the Supreme. As it was said in the earlier verse, Rigved 1. First canto, 22nd chapter, 20th verse says, Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam. This is from Rigved, this hymn. It says that the lotus feet of Vishnu are the supreme devotional platform. The performance of everything on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead assures the perfection of all the activity. Sorry. So in order to spiritualize all our activities, we have to say Om Tat Sat as told in verse 23. So performing everything on behalf of the Lord is going to assure perfection in all our activities. Verse 25, Arjun is being told that without desiring fruitive results, one should perform various kinds of sacrifice, penance and charity with the word Tat. The purpose of such transcendental activities is to get free from the material entanglement. The importance of word Om was told in verse 24, and now in verse 25, the importance of word Tat is being told. Tat means that, and Om is beginning with. So to be elevated to the spiritual position, one should not act for any material gain. So in order to get the advancement to the material platform or the material level, we should not act for any material gain. So even if we are doing chanting the holy names or reading the scriptures or doing any kind of dana or Lord, we should not be up. So in order to elevate to the spiritual side, we have not to do any activity for any kind of material gain. The act should be performed for the ultimate gain, being transferred to the spiritual kingdom, back to home, back to Godhead. So whatever we are doing, our thought process should be that we have to do this so that we can slowly get back to Godhead, to our eternal abode. Finally, not finally, it's the penultimate verses of this chapter, verse 26 and 27. Bhagavan is telling Arjun the absolute truth is the objective of devotional sacrifice and is indicated by the word Sat. In the verses 26 and 27, the word Sat is being explained by Bhagavan. Performer of such sacrifice is also called Sat. Now Sat is the word Sat. The performer of such sacrifice is called Sat, as are all works of sacrifice, penance and charity which, true to the absolute nature, are performed to please the Supreme Person, O son of Kunti, O son of Pritha, sorry. The words Prashaste karmani, or prescribed duties. This comes in the verse 26, indicates that there are many activities prescribed in the Vedic literature which are purificatory processes beginning from the time of conception up to the time of end of one's life. So from our birth to our final breath, there are certain activities which are prescribed by the Vedic literature, and they are all actually there to purify us. These are the purificatory processes, and they are actually applied for the ultimate liberation for all the human beings, all the living entities. In these activities, it is recommended that one must vibrate, or one must say Om Tat Sat. The word Sadbhave and Sadhubhave, it is there in verse 26. It indicates the transcendental situation. Sadbhave means in the sense of the nature of the Supreme. This is in the word-to-word meaning of this verse. And Sadhubhave is in the sense of the nature of the devotee. So acting in Krishna consciousness is called Sattva. That is the Sattva. And one who is fully, who is Sattva? Sattva is the one who is fully conscious of the activities of the Krishna consciousness is called a sadhu. Acting in Krishna consciousness is Sattva, and one who is fully conscious of the activities of Krishna's consciousness is a sadhu. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 25th chapter, 25th verse, it is said that transcendental subject matter becomes clear in the association of the devotees. So association is so important because the association helps you either to elevate you or degrade you. And association of devotees is also always going to elevate one to the spiritual platform. The word satatam prasangat. So these are the words for that. Satatam prasangat. Prasangat. Okay. So without good association, we cannot achieve the transcendental knowledge, and so when somebody is given the sacred thread or the Janayu, the words Om Tat Sat are uttered, are said, they are vibrated. Now the word Tad Arthyam, Prabhupada is telling us that it means that offering service to anything which represents the Supreme. So Tad Arthyam means offering services to anything which represents the Lord. Now such service can be, for example, cooking, that if we are going to offer that cooking to Lord, food stuff is coming from Lord, and that food stuff is offered back to Lord. And this can be in the temple, or helping in the Lord's temple, in any activity, any kind of work, or just in the matter of preaching, in the matter of cleaning, all the activities. So Om Tat Sat is used in many ways to perfect all activities. So when we do any activities, we just say Om Tat Sat because we are offering that as service to the Lord. That service is being completely purified by saying Om Tat Sat. It's being offered back to Lord. And you're not claiming any kind of ownership into it. Finally, the verse 28, the last verse of this chapter, Bhagavan says, anything done in sacrifice, charity or penance without faith in the Supreme, O son of Pritha, is impermanent. It is called Asat and is useless both in this life and the next. So Bhagavan is saying clearly to Arjuna that anything which is done without faith, without conviction, without the transcendental objective, whether it is sacrifice, charity, or penance, is completely useless. So this verse is declaring that such activities are completely useless or abominable. So everything should be done for the Lord in Krishna consciousness. We should have such faith, and if we are devoid of such faith and we are not having any proper spiritual guidance, then there'll be never any result. And faith is one thing. Faith in the Supreme is told again and again in the Vedic scriptures, and Vedic instructions are also telling us that the ultimate goal is the understanding the Lord, and without following the right principles we cannot attain the Lord. So in the beginning as well, you have to follow your Shiksha Guru. The Shiksha Gurus can be many. Whoever you're hearing from is your Shiksha Guru, and then there is a Diksha Guru. So look for a bona fide spiritual master who is following a line of disciplic, in the line of disciplic succession, starting from Krishna, Naraji, Brahma, and up to the present Guru. Then everything will be totally successful. But we are being reminded again and again in the purports, and Krishna also reminds us, and Prabhupada is reminding us in the purport of this last verse, that in the conditional state which we are all in the material world, there are people who are attracted to worshipping demigods, the Devi Devatas, like we say, the 33 crore, isn't it? 33 crore Devi Devatas. In India, they're said that there are 33 crore Devi Devatas, and the ghosts, the yakshas like Kuvera, are all worshipped. The mode is goodness is better than the mode of passion and ignorance, but one who takes directly to Krishna consciousness is transcendental to all three modes of material nature. So taking straight to Krishna consciousness, taking straight to the worship of Lord is best, because worshipping everybody else, how they are getting the powers from? They are getting the powers from Krishna. So isn't it better to root the tree itself rather than just going to water the root of a tree itself, rather than watering the leaves and the flowers and the stems and the fruit and the twigs separately? Because if you water the root, the tree will be totally nourished. Because Krishna consciousness is transcendental, is above all the three modes of material nature. It is in the pure goodness the bhakti begins. It is above the ignorance, passion, and goodness. So this is recommended in this chapter 17, the divisions of faith. So find a bona fide spiritual master, train under his direction, and you can question all kinds of questions to your spiritual master. If you're not happy, the Shastra says you can leave that spiritual master as well. There is nothing wrong with it. If you are not happy that spiritual master has fallen down, unfortunately, because this is Kali Yuga after all, let Krishna take care of that. But if you're not happy, you can leave the association of that spiritual master and move to the bona fide one. But you need one spiritual master. And the ultimate spiritual master here for us in this age is, of course, well, in Gaudiya Madhava Sampradaya, it is for us Srila Prabhupada, who has written all the scriptures in simplified form. Their tatparyas, their purport has been given in a simplified form for us to understand. So this way, when the faith is going to mature, we can, when we have achieved the faith in Supreme, and when the faith matured, then we will get the love of the Lord, and that getting the love of the Lord is the ultimate goal of all the living entities. So one should try to take the Krishna consciousness directly. Prabhupada says this is the message of the 17th chapter. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 17th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of the divisions of faith. So thank you for joining. We will begin chapter 18, the conclusion, the perfection of renunciation, next time. I wish you all a very Krishna conscious and happy day. Chant and be happy. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.